Guys, I hate to ruin your day, but it is now official. She is taken. Taylor Swift is getting married.
Bro, this is amazing news.
What
Dude,
do you mean?
think about it.
Wait.
The song.
Imagine how big of a banger that song is going to be when they inevitably eventually call it an end. Hey, maybe I'm thinking a little too negatively, but
Bro, you gotta think about it. It's all a ploy. Imagine the breakup album.
you think the $2 billion she already made was enough? There's going to be $2 billion more from one album at that point. But you know what I don't think will make $2 billion? That is KFC's new menu, because they've released a new pickle menu with a new item on it being pickle Pepsi. No, you didn't hear me wrong. I know you're already running out the door to try it, but I think this might be one I'll be passing on. However, it probably is everyone's favorite pregnancy craving. Now, I know you come for the food news and the Taylor Swift news, but what you stay for is the video game news, because this week has been an interesting one. It's kind of like the calm before the storm. Now that Gamescom is over, we're moving into the fall, and boy, oh boy, is it going to be a busy fall. You'll see what I mean throughout the show, but you've come to the right place if you want to know about everything video games. Welcome to the Weekly Reload. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your weekly gaming news show that comes out every single Sunday, where apparently we take a deep dive into Pickle Pepsi and Taylor Swift, but the other thing is the industry. And one of the things that's gone down in the industry this week, specifically for Twitch, is numbers. And what I mean by that is the numbers on Twitch have dropped down, at least on third-party sites, because of an implementation that they did to crack down on botters. Essentially, people in every single video game across every single genre on Twitch were using view botters, and Twitch finally cracked down on it, something I never thought they would do because you'd think it would hurt their advertising numbers, so on and so forth. But they did, and it appears as though numbers have dropped down across the board. However, that is on third-party sites reporting that. Meanwhile, the Twitch CEOs are saying, no, the numbers really haven't dropped at all. There's just less view botters. I don't know what the actual truth is, but from what I've seen, massive creators have had thousands and thousands of viewers drop lower. Now, speaking of the fall, games that are coming this fall, one that's kind of squeaking below the radar is Arc Raiders. You knew they blew up during Tech Test 2, and really they've remained radio silence as opposed to a couple of things that have come out over the past week, one of which being some concept images and an explanation as to how they came up with the theme for their game. They said this: "We were inspired by brutalist architecture and industrial design, as well as the layers of history that peek through, despite the passing of time. At its core, the presentational aspect is meant to be breathtaking, a celebration of majesty of nature which can be felt in the vivid naturalistic lighting and grand skies and natural reclaiming of the influence of man." And I think that's a perfect description really of what Arc Raiders did. They took these industrial designs of what man have built and show what would happen if essentially humans disappeared and nature began to take back over. Speaking of which, those scenes that they showed off with like the kind of like the red water kind of like stained by copper, I think those look really, really cool. It lends to the question, where and what type of maps are we going to be getting moving forward when Arc Raiders eventually releases? Now, you may remember a couple of weeks ago, we talked about the Roblox situation, where essentially the YouTuber by the name of Schlepp ended up getting banned from Roblox because, well, he was trying to take out predators. No, I am not kidding. Now, the reason for this is Roblox stated that they were doing their own thing to take down these people and make sure that they weren't in game. But lo and behold, the idea of all press is good press actually came through and reigned supreme. Now, the reason why I say that is because this week, Roblox hit its all-time peak concurrent users at 47.3 million users. At one freaking time. No, you didn't hear me wrong. That is 6 million higher than the peak for Steam. All of Steam, not one game, all of Steam in the entirety of March. Now, speaking of things that are strange, Call of Duty this week is incredibly weird. So the week kind of started out with Call of Duty bending the knee. And what I mean by that is they canceled carry forward content. One of the most controversial things when they announced Black Ops 7 was the fact that everything for Black Ops 6, including the American Dad skins, including the Beavis and Butthead skins, and including everything else, was going to be in Black Ops 7 at the beginning of Season 1. Well, they now announced that they are bending the knee, agreeing with all the other creators that they are not doing the carry forward content. Now, the weird part about this is as soon as they announced this, I saw people coming out of the wetworks saying things along the lines of, well, I paid for it, why shouldn't I get to use it? And it just lends to show you, no matter what Call of Duty does, someone is going to be mad, and they kind of have to take the general consensus of what people want. And I truly believe that is canceling carry forward. I think even people that I've talked to outside of the Call of Duty community have said, dude, this cartoony bullcrap is ridiculous. And maybe if they wouldn't have included that, the carry forward might have been not so egregious. But speaking of which, Call of Duty is moving out of just video games. And I know this is something that we've talked about for years, but it appears as though a movie for Call of Duty is going to be coming. And what I mean by that is Paramount has apparently bought the rights to Call of Duty to create a film. Now, since then, there's been a bunch of people talking about what the best Call of Duty film would actually be. And let me tell you, if you take Black Ops 1 and essentially make a movie similar to Apocalypse Now and the gritty theme of that game, but have Christopher Nolan direct it and use like the mind-bending techniques of Inception, that is how you create the world's best Call of Duty movie. Yes, it would be cool to do like a Modern Warfare, Black Hawk Down style movie, but I think like if you go with like the mind-bending Black Ops 1, not like Black Ops 6 or anything crazy like that, like Vietnam War, Black Ops 1, mind-bending, Reznov appears several times, get Gary Oldman, I think it would be an absolute banger. Now, speaking of things that were absolute bangers, you may remember a couple months ago, they added Call of Duty World War II to Game Pass. However, when they did, they ended up having to take it down off of the Microsoft Store. The reason for that is people were using exploits to actually gain control over your entire computer using the online service of Call of Duty World War II. So they had to take it off of the PC store because it was quite literally could potentially ruin your life or even just ruin your PC. Well, this week they reinstated the game on the Microsoft Store, appearingly actually fixing that exploit. But here's what's weird. The next day, that happened on the 27th, on August 28th, the next day, essentially all of Call of Duty went down, like completely and utterly went down, with people seeing the message failed to fetch inventory. Now, this wasn't just in Black Ops 6 or Modern Warfare 3. It was like 15 to 16 different Call of Duty titles, like going back to Advanced Warfare, like things like that. These games were completely taken down. Now, here's what's weird. There was never an explanation as to why. The rumor went around that they were removing skill-based matchmaking from every Call of Duty game. Just to be clear, that is not true, but that's essentially what has been going on in Call of Duty throughout the week. Now, while that was going on, this is what Battlefield was doing. So essentially, Battlefield 6 showed off their PC trailer, kind of announcing the specs and things like that were going to be going on with the PC version of the game. We already knew it was good because of the beta, but as far as other things that we learned, we saw a couple of new maps within that trailer, as well as some Portal gameplay actually being leaked. They kind of leaked gameplay of the Always Up mode in Portal. We saw a first look at what the server browser is going to look like, and honestly, it looks pretty good. It just lends to the question, why is there no server browser just for main normal game types? It's kind of confusing. But while that was going on, another Vietnam game was getting announced, and that's Hell Let Loose Vietnam. So if you've played Hell Let Loose, it's essentially a grounded military shooter, but they are releasing a Vietnam version of the game. Now, as of right now, we don't have a release date. All we know is it's coming in 2026. Speaking of games that came out, this week we had a bunch of games come out. Starting out, we had Gears of War Reloaded. This is essentially another remake version of Gears of War 1, which has already been remade before, so they should be able to get it right the second time around, and it appears as though they did, sitting at an 81% on OpenCritic. I actually played this one, and basically, if you took Gears of War 1, essentially left the controls exactly the same, pretty much left the game exactly the same, with some little story beats and things added in, and made it look pretty. That is Gears of War Reloaded. The next game that we had coming out on August 28th, we had Kirby and the Forgotten Land. This is basically the Nintendo Switch 2 version of the game. It's sitting at an 85%, pretty solid. It's a Kirby game. If you love Kirby, you'll love the game. Also on the 28th, we had Metal Gear Solid Delta, another remake game. This one's sitting at 87%. Basically what I've heard from this one is the game is beautiful, the story is fantastic. The one downside is there is some issues running this game, specifically on console of all things, which I do find kind of weird. But if you like Metal Gear games, you're absolutely gonna like this one. And then the top rated game of the week goes to Shinobi Art of Vengeance. This one also came out on the 28th and is sitting at an 88% on OpenCritic with the top rated game of the week. Now, here is what's crazy. Remember how I said this week is kind of, we've had Gamescom, it's come and gone. We got all the announcements last week, all of the news. Well, that is essentially the calm before the storm, because this September starts a cascade of really insane game releases going every month pretty much until December of this year. First of all, we start out with the Shadow Drop, probably one of the biggest games of the year. Apparently it's only going to be $19.99 when released. By the way, this story just got really weird because that was the leaked price by GameStop. It was actually on the page on their website, but since then has been taken down. So take that $19.99 with a little bit of a grain of salt. Now, this game was shadow dropped during Gamescom. It's the most anticipated game on Steam, and I really think this is going to be a banger and potential for game of the year, definitely indie game of the year. After this, we have NBA 2K26. This is coming out on September 5th. It's an NBA game. You know it's going to sell well. Then going up to the 12th, we have Borderlands 4. Personally, this is like the game for me that is now kind of slid under the radar, underneath kind of Black Ops 7, underneath Battlefield 6, but it's a looter shooter. I love looter shooters. I'm really going to be grinding this one out, and I can't wait to see what it actually looks like upon release. Then on the 19th, we have Dying Light the Beast. This one was delayed, I think actually a couple of times, but should be interesting nonetheless. If you liked other Dying Light games, I really do think you're going to like this one. It appears as though they just took that extra time to polish out the game. And then just 5 days later, we have a new Silent Hill game, Silent Hill F, diving into the Japanese horror style things, which looks absolutely amazing. September 25th, we have Sonic Racing, and September 26th, we have EA Sports FC 26. It is one of the busiest months that I have ever seen for video games, and this doesn't mention any of the other games coming out this year. Your Battlefields, your Arc Raiders, your Black Ops 7. It's a banger year for video games, and that is why you should subscribe and have notifications on. If you want to stay up to date on all of the news in video games, the Weekly Reload is a place for you, where we've got a video with all your gaming news every single Sunday. So if you're new, subscribe, turn notifications on. Thank you for checking us out, and until next time, peace.